Planting trees and shrubs is a huge investment, not only your money, but just your time, and especially if you do it right. We plant trees and shrubs out here for wildlife. My tree and shrub planting experiences go back a long ways, and you can see this planting right now. Big Rock Trees comes out. There's 16 trees in here, all landscape matted. We have 15 out of 16 that are leafed out and doing real well this year. And we found last year we had drought for 2 months, and on some of our older exclosures, there's approximately 85% that are living, and that was due to a lot of work. And what I found throughout the years is it pays to do the work. It pays to do more work, fewer trees done right, than just throwing them in the ground and hoping. And you can't use the shotgun approach when it comes to planting trees and shrubs. If you throw a whole bunch out there done the wrong way, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of success here. These cages over here, we've planted spruce up by our house, rows of spruce, shrubs, red cedar out here, and a lot of trees over the last few years. And we've put the time and effort into making it done right, making them grow right. But I can say, like back in the day, 95 to 96, on a property we had in the Thumb area in Michigan, I planted 4,000 trees one year, 5,000 trees the next, by hand, just 2 of us. So stabbing them in the ground, planted crab trees, back in the day, pines, spruce, lots and lots of mulberries, different kinds of bushes that were available through the conservation district at that time. And I looked at it back then, boy, if we buy a bunch of shrubs and trees and we put them out here, we're going to get them to grow. I planted red osier dogwood back then. That was when I was first introduced to red osier dogwood in '95. We've since talked about red osier dogwood management in big swamp areas, and what a great browse red osier dogwood is for deer, rabbits. Good cover too, and we've talked about it enough in articles online that you start seeing forums that started popping up around that time when I was talking about a lot. ROD, red osier dogwood. Getting my ROD in this spring and getting it planted. I wonder how many of those failed. You know, back in '95 when I first planted them, they failed. And there's a lot of reasons red osier dogwood fail among all these other shrubs too. But I can talk about red osier dogwood. It's a very finicky shrub to establish. It needs moisture, not standing moisture though, and it can't take dry area. So if you get the soil type or soil down, that's one thing. But 2, it has to have sun. So you have to get almost full sun to a red osier dogwood to get it to grow. That means you need to limit weed growth. So you need to plant it in an area where it doesn't have weeds to compete with. Needs to get good moisture, but not too much. Can't get dry, sandy area, and you need sun to it. So even just the area you plant it makes red osier dogwood a pretty tough one to plant. Dappled willow is another one. Dappled willow is more hardy, but deer like to eat it. Hybrid poplars. There's hybrid poplars right in here in this fence. You can see 2 of them. I expect those to be probably 8 to 10 feet by the time the summer's done right here with good moisture. The problem with all those, if they're a wildlife shrub, they have to be protected from deer and other critters. They have to. So a lot of times you look at a conservation district planting, and I used to go over those back in the day, and it's crazy. That was about almost 30 years ago today that we look at those, and you look through those order forms and just dream, well, if I have this growing, this combination, and they call them wildlife shrubs. And I think looking back, and even at the time, I think wildlife shrub meant food, or wildlife food, meaning they're going to eat it and they're going to destroy it. You know, out of those 4,000 trees one year, 5,000 trees the next, I'm not sure that there are 500 growing right now. They're literally, we didn't protect them. We had drought both years. It was light, sandy soil. We had the river flooding in the lowland, and we were just doomed from the start. Now we plant them a little bit smarter and make sure that if we are going to plant these trees, we can water them. But really, when it comes down to it, this fence is so critical. This fence around here, you can see with the T-posts, this is a heavier fencing right here. and plastic fencing. They're zip tied. Of course, you can get this in different colors. We like the dark green. Landscaping matting takes care of your weeds and holds moisture, keeps the soil damp. You can get things to grow, but don't ever fool yourself and plant something, red osier dogwood, dappled willow, hybrid poplar, silky willow, hybrid willow, whatever it might be. Don't plant these great trees and shrubs thinking that you can just throw them out and not take care of them. You have to take care of them. Again, with the red osier dogwood, we've done really well, but you have to have that soil. You can't be in sand unless it's, now if it's sand and you get lots of water through it or lots of rain, then you probably do okay. It's not necessarily the soil type, it's just the moisture type within that soil, but you have to cage them. So think about that anytime you're planting. Same could be said for apple trees and fruit trees. See people plant lots of apple trees and fruit trees. We see them all the time on properties. And those that fence them in win. And you fence them in correctly. There's some really good stuff online if you just look up how to fence apple trees. And it's better, again, let's say you have this dream of planting an orchard and you want 48 trees. Different locations are all in one spot. You're better off planting 20 or even 10 and doing it right. And a lot of times that boils down to not the fertilizer you put to it, but making sure that you fence it in to keep it away from creatures. I'll tell you right now, these fencings right here last year, and these circular fencing, they're 30 feet in diameter. They contain about 18 shrubs and trees. Well, we had drought, extreme drought for June and July last year. I don't even know if we had an inch of rain during that entire time. We had switchgrass germinate at the end of July, when normally it would germinate at the end of May, early June. We just didn't have the moisture when the soil temperature hit. A lot of people, like with switchgrass, they'll say, well, my switchgrass isn't growing. And the soil temperature is 58 degrees or 60 degrees. But until you get enough moisture on that seed, it's not going to grow. So those two didn't happen in some of our locations out here last year until the end of July. Out here in these round circles, we had 10 diversity pockets throughout the property, located a mile here, half mile there, 3/4 mile there. And then we had 2 other plantings for deer blinds. Those had to be watered. And I'm not sure if it was 11 times or 12, somewhere around there. We watered them last year, once a week, 2 weeks at the most. Let's say we got a little rain in there for a break. It took almost 2 days to water those 200 shrubs, 5 gallons per tree, each and every time. That's the only way we kept them alive. In fact, 2 spots where we have deer blinds. We had some red osier dogwood, silky willow, dappled willow in the front, and then we had some hybrid willow, hybrid poplar behind. And those little small shrubs, we forgot in those 2 locations out of the 12 locations we had, we forgot to water them the first 2 times. It was one of those like, hey, did we water those areas? And it was like, oh no. And so we continued to water those areas throughout the summertime. 100% failure in those 2 areas with those tiny shrubs, 6 in each area, because we didn't water them the first 2 times out of the 11 or 12 times we watered them throughout the winter. That's how critical it is sometimes to taking care of these things. So bottom line, all this stuff, easy to grow, but you have to fence it. If it's a deer browse species or variety, meaning hybrid poplar, dappled willow, red osier dogwood, deer are going to eat it. They're going to destroy it. They're going to kill it. So you have to fence it. You have to get the soil correct as far as the moisture that it goes. And if it's drought, if there is drought, I know big rock trees, when we have these cuttings, they recommend when there's not rain, especially for 2-3 weeks or more, then to start watering every week, 5 gallons per tree. So someone could say, well, I want to plant 2,000 trees. Until you've watered 200 scattered out around a farm, and it takes almost 2 days one time to water, then you don't want 2,000. So again, you're better off. And what we're doing too is we don't want lines of shrubs out here. If you can see this area, we're filling in. We have a lot of pockets of shrubs and trees, little growth outcroppings of box elder, cherry. Then we have lots of briar pockets, gray dogwood. And so what we're trying to do is take open areas like this and fill them in. It doesn't take rows and rows of these trees and shrubs. Think about this area. It's already surrounded in switchgrass on the outside. by up to 40 feet wide. So we're surrounding this area in switchgrass. The area on the inside is protected. We can take little clusters like this. And look at this, as each one is good for a doe family group. A single buck. There's lots of room, tons of pheasant cover. And then wildlife and rabbits too. We have lots of flowers mixed in here. This is truly a wildlife sanctuary, and these add greatly by creating quality shrubs that deer will actually browse, rabbits too, and then we fence them off to make sure that we can get them to that point, which is 2 to 3 years. This is first year for this. You can see we have a smaller pocket back there where they're doing really well inside, and a bigger pocket here that's at 2 years, the second year. We'll probably take that fence down next year, and if not next year, in the 4th year, so the 4th growing season. But you can keep them alive. You can do really well. Make sure they're overall a part of a giant strategy of wildlife enhancement, not just rows in a spot because you want to plant them and it sounds good to have on the property. Make sure they fit in that location of the property with everything else. We're trying to expand this cover as it goes out. We're just trying to complement it, what's already here naturally, really enhance this entire area. This fits in well with a great food plot that's about 200 yards that way, and another food plot that's about 300 yards that way. We have this nice peninsula of cover, and it's a great fit, but you got to do it right. It can be done. Red osier dogwood is one of my favorite shrubs, but be mindful of where you plant it, how you protect it, and when you do those things, easy to plant and get it right, and something you can enjoy on your land and the wildlife can enjoy for decades to come.